herself that her suffering may yet save her friend, as perhaps cheerily would let Tiara go, but she just preserved. She built up an iron fortress of resolve, which melted like ice before the sun as she saw the machine draw closer once more. This time it replaced the arm with the needle in favor of one of four sharp blades coming together into a tip with some kind of drill. That's interesting. The menacing contraption started to spin around at high speed, accompanied by a low buzzing noise as it drew ever nearer. It didn't take Silverstone long to figure out it was aimed at her and remaining eye this time. But with only one eye left, she found it somewhat hard to determine its trajectory at first. Hey, Silverstone, you guess what I got? Depth perception. And depth perception at the sea beginning to dive. Suddenly she swallowed as best she could as it dawned on her. Wait a second. Soon her mouth became chillingly clear. Oh, that's odd. She hesitated for a moment just before the blades entered her mouth. She pressed down onto the button once it began. Oh, that's odd. I didn't expect that. I expected like her to ground up her feet or something and then pulling down the little metal shaft. But no. She hesitated for a moment, but just before the blades entered her mouth, she pressed down onto the button again. At once she could hear Diamond scream as the very first drop of fluid that flowed out of the pipes already rise to a level of virtuous enough to contact with her soft inner flesh, starting to suspicion with the pink Billy all over again. Silverspan, Silverspan, Silverspan! She cried, apparently in too much pain to think of anything better. Silverspoon cried tears from her right eye and bloody ones from her socket as she sobbed, over and over, shaking the disgust at her own perceived cowardice. But as Diamond's flesh slowly got consumed by the clear liquid, it became clear that cheerilee had a few more tricks up her sleeve. Dun, dun, dun. A loud banging noise announced the arrival of four small but heavy balls. That's what she said. Which came rolling through as of yet unused pipes until it pumped down to the blast acid below. So, once again, balls which came rolling down through the yet unused pipes only to plummet down to the vast acid below. The receptively innocent-looking liquid splashed up around them, raining down upon the purple lightning pony from every direction. That's kind of sick, Cheerily. You could just make it a wave pool. Small drops fell down into her back, melting holes through her coat and skin, leaving tiny blood craters behind us. They showed a grotesque parody of a lunar landscape. At the same time, a bigger wave of that stuff crashed into her right flank, her key mark melting away as if vitriol dug into her body, bloody blisters boiling up around the edges of the wounds. She instantly felt an extreme burning sensation on her left shoulder as well. By far the worst was the splash that hit her right in the face. She shrieked like a banshee as the stuff burned through her right cheek, exposing muscles and white bones and offering a few of the inside of her mouth. You haven't been brushing enough! In a matter of minutes, her appearance changed from that of a cute billion to that of a monster, with half her face missing the rest of her body covered in bloody blisters. Craters and sores, not quite unlike how some ponies might picture a zombie. In addition to that, the acid had kept melting away from the flesh from her legs as well, having reached up to just under her knees now. Silverspoon couldn't bear it any longer and pulled her hoof off of the button, determined to never press it down ever again, no matter what the cost. She swallowed back her fear as the blade started spinning again and approached her. She never liked the name of her character in the play, Silvertongue. Silvertongue, I've heard that before. It was in Inkheart. That was exactly how she viewed herself. She had always thought they had a knack for using words to suit her own purpose, and would perhaps have gone far in the diplomacy business or something like that one day. She thought it likely that cheerilee knew about that as well, and didn't doubt that this was all some sort of sick joke to her. She couldn't understand her teacher's reasons or motivations in just a few idle seconds. She'd never be able to ask anyone. She tried screaming out, but no answer ever came as the blades passed her lips. I think I should get like a metal tube and talk into it, and that can sound more like her. Instead of just doing the pyro voice, that makes it kind of silly. They advanced slowly, and Spoon seemed slower still as she experienced the pain of such a magnitude. The loss of her eye pallid in comparison. Bit by bit her tongue got shredded, and the remaining stump of it flailed around wildly as she tried to keep it out of reach, but the blades were everywhere by now. Cheerilee, what are you doing? Just shredding tongues. Just shredding tongues. The silly needles that had been poking around in her mouth turned into an intense but monotonous pain. Mountainous. Which was only broken by the pounding sensation she felt where her tongue had once been. Even in her dazed and sickened state, she felt the acute need to breathe as the blood that had flowed down the throat threatened to drown her. With a hacking cough and surge of energy born from desperation, she managed to force the blood up and out of her throat, making it spill out of her mouth and cascade down her body like a waterfall. Like the analogies going here, metaphors and similes. With a stabbing sensation in her empty socket and the pounding in her mouth, Spoon could barely think straight anymore. It was as if pain had become her only reality, and it blocked everything else out. She tried to speak, but could produce only a long guttural sound, which would have made her envious than the other's constant moans and sobs, which she's still able to consciously register at all. Yeah, sorry about that. Probably killed your headphone layers. Cheerilee noticed a lack of resistance in Silver and was thoroughly disappointed, but sure. The crying and the sounds she made were amusing. Wait, what? Oh. Other than you, Silver thinking that. Listening to what I was reading. Cheerilee noticed the lack of resistance in Silver and was thoroughly disappointed. Sure, the crying and the sounds she made were amusing. It wasn't quite what she had been hoping for. She could have put up a better fight than this. What is she hoping for? Or just lay her foot on the button the whole time? She walked over to the machine and turned it off, moving to the side of the room to pick up a small bag of tools she had left there, just in case. No matter how well she had been collaborating with all these machines, she really harbored no illusion. When it finally came down to it, she could only count on herself to get the job done right. She took out a hammer and a chisel and put them down next to the one, with the now only semi-conscious Silverstone. I have horrible times with my S's. In the absence of any digits, such as the ones the griffins had, ponies had to find a different way to hold the chisel. In place, as they swung the hammer, the solution came in from form of a metal shoe, which extended past the hoofs. A hole in the tip which could hold the chisel in place. Typically, a chisel and a shoe were made in such a way that the thicker part at the end of the chisel, or the hammerhead, could fit through the hole. Cheerilee slipped on the heavy shoe and put the chisel through the hole with her teeth, before grabbing hold of a hammer in the same way. She positioned the chisel carefully, aiming it right above the filly's right hoof. Just under the metal vein and holding her right leg in place, with a great swing she brought the hammer down, driving the tip of the chisel into the filly's leg, scraping up against her hoof from above. Fuck, oh fuck, ah shit, can't find place, no, I'm in pain! Okay, well. Silver Spoon, who had been apathetically floating in the sea of pain until now, suddenly let out a piercing, if garbled shriek as her remaining eye flew wide open. More of her blood spilling onto the floor. Charlie grinned. So I do this in a really happy voice. Charlie grinned the best he could while holding the hammer. Just above the hoof was one of the most sensitive spots in the pony's body. Which is why the hoof protected it so well in the first place. She drew the hammer back and slammed it down again, driving the thin metal rod farther in with every swing. Yelps and cries from the filly excited her farther and farther. She began to have trouble keeping the hammer in her mouth because her body trembled so. With the last mighty swing of the tip of the chisel suddenly emerged from the other side of the filly's hoof, as the poor thing whimpered in pain and her blood stained the floor in multiple places. With a sudden rush of inspiration, Cheerilee swung the hammer down again, this time aiming not for the thicker bulge at the end, but simply for the side of the chisel at the metal rod leaning horizontally in the filly's legs. The blow pushed the rod down against the hoof, which, already not attached to the leg anymore in the middle, simply broke off, leaving only a bloody stump with some scattered fragments of hoof still attached. The filly let out a gurgling cry of pain as her eyes rolled back in the socket, and then suddenly fell silent. Cheerilee frowned as she dropped the hammer and brought her head level with Spoon's. The little wretch had fainted. Oh, come on, not now, it's only starting to get fun, she screamed in frustration, as she swung a hoof at the filly's head, hitting her right in the face. Face stab. The cheerlee is a spy! The cheerlee is a spy! Medic! They do actually need a medic. Cheer grabbed the filly by her hair and wait 1 second. Oh, come on now! Not now! It's only starting to get fun! She screamed in frustration as she swung a hoof at the filly's head, hitting her right in the face. There wasn't even the tiniest response from the pink mare's side. Wake up! Smack! I'm totally not going to knock him unconscious, so I smacked him in the face. She grabbed the filly by her hair and started dragging her to the side of the room, leaving a wide red smudge trailing behind her victim. A portion of the floor had been slightly lowered here, leaving a small depressed circle in the ground, which had been outside of the filly's field of vision so far. Nonchalantly, she threw the filly into the circle, not particularly caring how she landed. She fell down in a crumbled heap in the center, and remained motionless except for the slightly heavy heaving of her chest with every breath. Cheerilee then made her way back to the glass tank, staring right into the diamond's eyes, not completely sure the filly still had the use of her right eye. The acid had taken a heavy toll on that side of her face. The filly managed to say hoarsely, obviously nearing the end of her strength. She only smiled her kindest smile. But of course I'll let you go. And Silver Spoon as well. But only if you can reach her. She broke into a grin as she walked to the wall next to the glass cylinder and pulled one of the levers there. At once, several holes in the floor inside the glass were drained away to clear fitful. I don't know chemicals, so I don't know how to pronounce them. Fit Royal. Royal. I don't know. Once it was mostly gone, she pulled another lever and the glass circle got lifted up off the ground, and until there was enough space underneath it for her pony to walk upright. At the same time, the filly's bindings automatically released her, and she crashed down to the floor from a small height. Her legs, bare boned up to her knees, couldn't support her weight and snapped in two. Oh, how cute. Sharp fragments of bone jumping away as pitiful remnants of her lower legs fell away to her as the pitiful remnants of her lower legs fell away to the sides. As luck would have it, the sharp shard of her right leg instead buried itself in Diamond's side as she fell onto it. It was the impotent time that even Tiara howled in pain, even while trying to overcome the shock of breaking all her legs at once. As the little stumps had left hit the ground and the smaller layer of acid still there started biting into her stomach, and in pain palled in comparison with what Diamond Tiara had already been through so far, and she paid it almost no heed as she tried to bite back the agony she was already in. Just get to your friend and you're both out of here. Who knows, there might even be a unicorn doctor good enough to fix you up, the teacher pony chuckled malignantly. Malignantly? Ugh. Malage. Malignantly. Ah, fuck it. Go hang thyself, malignantly. Tiara tried to get up, but as soon as she attempted to rest any weight on the jagged shards of bone now sticking out of her considerably shortened legs, she fell right back down again, panting more heavily than a mare in labor. Even if she didn't... Even if she hadn't been in pain, it would have been easy to balance on the stumps of the... It wouldn't have been easy to balance on the stumps of the bones at all. Just like turn on your side and roll. For a moment she thought of giving up right then and there, but she was instantly reminded of the bravery her friend had shown. Every time she refused to push down the button any longer, she owed it to her to at least try. It was a few meters from the pit in the ground, so the little pink filly started to lift her little legs over her head, trying to drag her body forth. Every time she did this, she felt like she was about to faint from the pain, but she pressed on and persevered to save herself and her friends. Cheerilee watched with giddy excitement, taunting the little filly every step of the way. Hey, almost there. What's taking you so long? Come on, up the pace, she said, laughing. Damn colds. Colds can be annihilated. The filly ignored her as best she could, and finally reached a circular pit in the ground. She tried to carefully lower herself into it, but slipped and fell on her side, driving the bone sharp still deeper into her side. She winced and groaned as she dragged herself to the center of the circle, putting the stumps of her front legs around Silver Spoon in a clumsy hug. Oh, Spoon, she managed to say. The gray filly managed to whisper as she slowly opened an eye. The other pony tried to smile at her friend, but the result was gratuitous at best. Well, dear Ken, don't let us go. I will reach you. Yeah, about that. Came Cheerilee's voice as she pulled away. She pulled down yet another lever. I lied. What you gonna do about it? Both of the fillies looked up as they heard a rumbling noise come from a pipe above them, and they saw a familiar, clear liquid dash down the roof. Swore it didn't see anything else ever again.